All right, you were live.
Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And we have the second half of our 2022 Hyperledger Career Fair that we're running this afternoon. And it's going to be an exciting session. We're going to have a nice recap from Jim Mason around what we covered in the first career fair that we did. And then we're going to go through and talk about, how you can get prepared to recruit with all these great companies that are looking to hire blockchain talent. And then we're going to have a wonderful panel discussion today with some very experienced blockchain industry leaders. And then we're going to then fire into our virtual recruitment tables. And that's where you'll get a chance to actually talk with the HR team and, get in front of them and talk about your skills and what they're looking to hire for in the industry. So I'm John Carpenter. I'm going to be one of the hosts today and running the panel discussion. And then I also have Jim Mason joining me today as well from the Hyperledger Boston group. So Jim, you have any comments you want to make quickly before we kind of fire into a recap?
No, no, just the fact that everybody should obviously post their name and links to their resume or LinkedIn profile in the chat, because like you did last time, we're going to grab all of that and then distribute that to all of the companies who are here. So that'll be an easy way for everybody to keep in contact with you, either your LinkedIn profile or your email. So that's good.
Okay, perfect. So I've gone ahead and posted a agenda here, what we're going to go through today. So we're going to start off with Jim, and he's going to talk a little bit about session 1 and the career fair and take some Q&A. Then we're going to do a recap of some of the projects that we talked about and relevant enterprise blockchain projects, especially in the Hyperledger ecosystem. And then we're going to go ahead and get into our panel discussion with our experts today and really talk about what their business focus is, insights on roles and opportunities, and how to register for their talent pool. And then we're also going to give a session ability to ask them great questions about what they're doing in the industry and how to get involved with their companies. And then once we wrap up the panel discussion and the Q&A, then we're going to fire up virtual recruitment fair tables. And this is where the companies who have shown up today, you'll get a chance to talk to them one-on-one with their HR department and, really learn what roles they have open, how you can apply for those roles. And really, it's a great opportunity to connect directly with the companies in this virtual forum. So what I will do is I'll open up several Zoom rooms. And from the Zoom room, you can just go ahead and float between different Zoom rooms and make sure that you're talking to all the companies that are here today. So that's kind of the kickoff to it. And Jim, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you and kind of go over a recap on session 1 and some of the enterprise blockchain projects you know about.
All right, thanks, John. So in session 1, which I believe was 2 weeks ago from today, we talked basically, just John actually introduced the career fair concept as to what it is and what we're doing. And then we did talk on my end a little bit about some blockchain solution concepts, sort of how do you think about blockchain, how it might fit different types of use cases and so on. And then we did introduce the concept of, the Hyperledger project and the Linux Foundation and all of the different projects that do exist inside of Hyperledger, of which there's quite a few. Some of them are platforms, and there's many other kinds of projects as well that are solution-oriented frameworks as well. And then the larger thing in the Hyperledger community, of course, is the fact that we have not just projects and software, but we also have industry working groups for focus points. The Hyperledger project and all the different projects within it, in a sense, put on lots of different forums, webinars, and events you want to track. We did also talk about the Hyperledger meetup groups that David Boswell is really the key to pushing all of the meetup groups around the world. I'll get the number wrong, but correct me, but I know there's over 175 different meetup groups. Some of them have physical meetups, again, now that we're past the pandemic, and some of them are more virtual if they don't have a meeting place, but we do have a lot going on there. And every week, David and John will put out a summary of what the different events are that you can attend as a virtual meetup. And so the nice thing about, I guess, the Hyperledger community is that it has grown and expanded. So originally, I would say it was a lot US and Europe focused, but now you can see that I'll say certainly Latin America, Asia, India, lots of other places, Africa, and so on, have lots of participation, a lot of actually events that are oriented around, in a sense, those areas and what locally they're interested in. So it's a very different kind of a community than when I joined 5 years ago. And so today it really is more of a global opportunity. And then, of course, we had the Hyperledger Global Forum that was in middle of September in Dublin, Ireland, where we spent, I think it was 3 days, plus the Hyperledger Meetup Summit there. That was actually an excellent opportunity for those of us that could get to travel. The other thing that's nice about Hyperledger is they do try to distribute materials and resources well. So even if you couldn't attend, they recorded a lot of the sessions, and a lot of material is available, in a sense, online. Some of it's over in the Hyperledger YouTube channel as well. So there's an awful lot of resources just within the Hyperledger community. There's even more resources outside in the blockchain and DLT space as well that you can take advantage of. And so we talked about that on my end a little bit. And then John walked through some of the industry use cases. And then the last time we did have another panel that focused on some questions just to introduce those concepts to the audience. And the panelists from last time, we're lucky we've got Nicko Guyer from Kaleido back again. We had Tracy Kurt from Accenture, who also was there for a great job, and Christine Sani from Sybil, who is a CEO and focuses more in the across a lot of domains, I say, from an industry perspective, but she focuses more in the governance space as opposed to the technology space. So we had a different set of perspectives. Some of the questions we took a look at last time, we asked questions about what were the business cases and industry solutions that companies were focused on. What projects have you been using in Hyperledger? What do you see as the demand for skills in I'll call it the blockchain area? And not just technical skills, but all the other things that are related to product and project management, governance. There's a lot of other things. Plus, we also said last time, let's pretend you've never coded a smart contract in your life and you actually don't know what one looks like. There's still a tremendous opportunity if you have technology skills or experience to get involved, because most of these blockchain projects involve not just call it smart contracts and blockchain, but they also involve integration with everything else on the planet. So there's usually a broad set of skills that you need to be effective. And so there's a lot of opportunity, even if you're not, I'll call it skilled yet, on a current blockchain technology for a project. We talked about the roles and opportunities a little bit that companies were working in, and then really focused in about how candidates can build their skills, which is still important. And I think I'll dig up the links we had from last event, but we had some links on where you can go to get, in a sense, access to free resources, not only in the Hyperledger community, but sometimes outside of that as well. And then we did talk about, what solutions, in a sense, are out there, and what are the challenges and opportunities when you get involved in looking at one as part of a project and so on. We also then asked everybody as a panelist, what did you think, from a career fair or from a career perspective, what was the single best thought you could share with all the attendees? So that was what our coverage was. Those were the topics we hit. And then with that, I'll kind of wrap it up and toss it back to John.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful recap, Jim. Thanks for doing that. And the thing I really want to get across to everyone is, there's a lot of different roles and opportunities within the blockchain space, not just for developers. And this also cuts across industries as well. So when we look at it, there's enterprise opportunities, there's government opportunities, there are identity type opportunities, there's currency type opportunities. There's just a wealth of different projects that are tied into blockchain. And really, when you get involved in the industry, you'll see that it covers a great many different enterprise applications. Okay, so let's just take a look at some of the things we're going to look at for the panel discussion. And what I want to do right now is go down and let's see if I can pull up my my panel discussion participants. That's really where I want to go to. So I'm just going to start off here. And of course, we have Daniela Barbosa Daniela, I really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up to this career fair. It's wonderful to have you. She's the general manager of blockchain, healthcare, and identity, and the Hyperledger executive director. So she's really the person that's leading the charge and really the main champion for Hyperledger. So Daniela, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it. We also have Melanie Cutlin, and Melanie is a definitive expert in the blockchain space. She's had many speaking engagements and really is just a great resource at Accenture. Right now, she's doing the Accenture Metaverse Continuum Business Group, which I want to hear a lot more about because that's exciting and that's very cutting edge and really ties in blockchain and NFTs and everything going on in the metaverse, which is wonderful. So Melanie, thanks for joining us as well. I don't know if Bill got a chance to get on the call. Bill, if you're on, maybe you can just come off mute. I was communicating with him and he had the DTCC team that's going to have a booth today, but I don't know if Bill was able to join us. Anybody from DTCC want to come off mute and just touch base?
Hi, John. It's Jim again.
Yeah, Jim. Okay.
I'm not-
Of course,
Jim will be the representative.
Right, but no, I'm not from HR though, but certainly I do work at DTCC. But if, Bill were here, somebody else from the HR side would be better because they have more resources to connect with on the HR end than I do.
Okay. And I'll just say, DTCC is a great Hyperledger member, and they really manage the quadrillions of dollars that go through, whether that's bond or stock settlement. And it's just a great company. You may have not heard of DTCC, but you've definitely had some interaction with them in your life. So great company. Glad to see Jim's with us. We should have more people as we get to the fair itself. Then we have Nicko Guyer. Nicko, I know, has joined us today. And Nicko's done a wonderful job of working with Kaleido and working on the Firefly project. You can see that in his background there. And he's a senior full stack engineer at Kaleido. But Nicko's really a great resource. And I'm really impressed with the work that Firefly's done recently because, they've really put a lot of investment into the Hyperledger Firefly project. And it's really well adopted. And anyone interested in really blockchain as a service or anything related to that, Kaleido is a great company to work with. And then Gigo Joseph, I don't know if Gigo's on. Was he able to join us?
I think I saw him.
I don't think I saw him either.
Not yet. I'll send him and Bill a note.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Just check in with them and let's just maybe fire into some of the questions here. And what I can do is, since we have Tracy and we have, let's see, Dano on here, would you like to join us on the panel discussion?
I'm not in a place I can do good audio stuff right now.
I'm just trying to look, see. Dano and Tracy, if you're interested, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to move forward and work with the three that I have today. Dano, you must be on mute.
Dano mentioned he was not in a good place for audio right now, and I think Melanie can cover the Accenture side pretty well.
Okay. We'll just have Melanie cover that. Okay, no problem, Tracy. It's always great to have you, and thanks for joining us for the previous session. Okay, so let's just go ahead, and I'm going to fire into this a little bit. So I'm going to kick this off with Melanie. And so Melanie, why don't you tell me a little bit about Accenture's great work and what kind of roles and opportunities that Accenture's hiring for now. And the other thing I'd really like you to focus on is talk a little bit more about the metaverse work that you're doing as well. So maybe just give us a 360 as far as what Accenture's doing in the space right now.
Fantastic. It's great to be here and on this panel with lots of people. We were also at a Hyperledger Global Forum with just a couple of weeks ago in Dublin. So it's great to be with this group. We recently moved, actually a couple of years ago, we moved our XR and blockchain teams together under one umbrella, under Dave Treat. And in doing that, what we realized was the multiplier effect of what we're calling the Internet of Place and the Internet of Ownership that drive the future of the metaverse, which is kind of reimagining how companies engage with their workforce. And we, how people. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes, you're coming through fine. Thanks.
So just how companies engage with their enterprise, how they engage in industrial use cases, and how they engage with consumers is really changing. And so what I think is interesting as we talk about our blockchain like depth is we've been in this enterprise blockchain space for a long time, right? Money, identity, and objects. But now we want to be able to carry them from virtual place to virtual place as well. And so we're seeing an expansion of use cases, but also a continued double down on the value pools that have existed in blockchain for quite some time. So as we think of that, we need everything from strategists, innovators, entrepreneurs that are helping to rethink how does blockchain allow you to do new things in your industry and across your multiple party ecosystem, as well as we need architects and engineers that can help bring this to life, right? So we've got positions out there. You just Google Accenture Metaverse Careers, you'll find all of our blockchain jobs in your location as well. And I've got postings kind of open around the world. We need both the people who understand identity deeply, right? Verifiable credentials and something that's so big in this space. People that understand how financial infrastructure works today, how digital money moves around the world, and people that understand how supply chains and value chains across healthcare and energy transition really move across the board. So it is it's an amazing team to be a part of because we're really on the cutting edge of rethinking and reimagining. And if you don't know much about Accenture as a whole, right, we work with the global 2000, the Fortune 500, we work with the brands and names that you would know and recognize and help them strategically think about how to reinvent and then build out the capabilities as well as run it in the long term. So we'd like to have those lifelong relationships with our clients that really transform and then measure the outcomes and values. And because of our long-term relationship with our clients in the space, we're often much more than project focused, but how do you actually get value with this tech, not just do tech for tech's sake? So I think it's a lot of fun to be here.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I know you've worked on some very high-end projects with a lot of the great companies that are Hyperledger members as well. And, every time I hear Accenture mentioned, it's always, well, they do great work in that team. And I think it'd really be great for anyone who's here at the career fair to really join such a great company as Accenture. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John, for always being supportive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nicko, I'm going to jump over to you and just talk a little bit about, demand within Kaleido for blockchain resources and what you're looking for. So go ahead, Nicko, it's up to you.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, John. Yeah, so Kaleido, as you may know, is a Web3 infrastructure company, and we're a growing company, so we definitely have a lot of different roles open. All of our roles are focused on blockchain in some way or another, whether they are an engineering role, which we have a lot of open roles. We also have some design and marketing roles open as well. But everyone at Kaleido is doing something and knows about blockchain. So every role is related to blockchain at our company, which is really awesome. But yeah, we have a variety of both software engineering and site reliability engineering roles. And like I said, we're growing, so we're looking to continue to hire awesome engineers and also some designers and marketing folks as well.
Yeah. That's perfect. The main thing, Nicko, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about Kaleido itself, because you've done a lot of great work in the blockchain as a service space, but you're growing. So maybe talk a little bit more on the background of Kaleido, just to kind of give people a better flavor for your company.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. So, as John mentioned, we really started out our core business as a blockchain as a service platform where you could go easily create an account and click a couple buttons, and then you would have your own private blockchain running in the cloud to deploy and run business enterprise-grade blockchain applications against. And it was your own blockchain. It was super easy to manage from the console, and it was really awesome. So we still have all that. We've continued to expand that core service that we have. We support Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Besu, and various other flavors of Ethereum-based chains, and also Corda are the kind of the three main types of blockchains that you can run on the Kaleido platform. As well as we recently brought in Polygon Edge as well as another type of Ethereum chain that you can run there. But yeah, Kaleido has grown from just that original blockchain platform as a service. One of the major things that we offer is what we describe as a consortium as a service. So allowing companies to come, whether it's a consortium of companies such as insurance companies or healthcare companies or financial companies that all want to work together, perform business transactions backed by blockchain, and let Kaleido run and manage the infrastructure for them. And so we offer that as a service on top of our platform, and it's super easy to build what is really a quite complex network of infrastructure. And Kaleido just makes that really easy. That's, if you haven't figured it out yet, the name of the game is making things that are really complicated really easy. That's what we're about. But then, yeah, so within the last year and a half or so, we built a lot of blockchain apps, and over the history of Kaleido, we saw patterns that were in all of our apps that we were building, and we said, gee, wouldn't it be really nice if there was a common platform that we could build apps on top of that had all of these building blocks that we keep building newer and better versions of, but like, wouldn't it be great if there was a platform that had all these building blocks in it already, and we could just build on top of that and let the platform worry about all these things. And this is where Hyperledger Firefly came from. So we said, boy, wouldn't it be great if there was a platform that did this, and wouldn't it be even better if it was an open source platform that did this? So Kaleido originally donated the original code base for Hyperledger Firefly, and many of the maintainers are Kaleido employees. So I work on Firefly pretty much full time in my role at Kaleido, which is awesome. I love working on open source software, and I'm super excited that I get to do it professionally. But I could talk for a long time about what Firefly is, but that's not what this session is about. Go see one of our other videos on YouTube or come to a conference or something. But Firefly is super cool, and Kaleido is really invested in it. And Kaleido offers Firefly as a service with super tight integration to the rest of our platform and services as well.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, Nicko. And I'll say I've been on the Firefly contributor calls, and it's really exciting technology. And I think there's a lot of people who really want to adopt blockchain, but really don't have the desire or the skill set to really fire up a whole bunch of nodes. And really a company like Kaleido and Firefly really solve that problem. So just a great company to work with. Okay, perfect. Now, Daniela, I'm going to move on to you. And I figured I would wait for you because you kind of give the overall industry perspective as well as, what you're seeing in the Hyperledger community. So tell me what you see as far as demand for skills and projects that are succeeding, companies that have great work, just what you're seeing.
Yeah. So first, I want to thank John for organizing these career fairs. It's really a great resource for the community to connect with many of our members and companies in our ecosystem who are hiring. And we're certainly seeing, continued hiring of demand for blockchain-related roles as well. A couple of things. John is a volunteer of our community. The Hyperledger Foundation we're an open source community. We have hundreds of thousands of people around the world, individuals that participate in one way or another. Some just follow us on Twitter. Others, might be a member of our meetup communities. Others are going to be maintainers and contributors to the code projects, or perhaps leaders or participants in any of our special interest groups. We have hundreds of ways that you as an individual can participate and start contributing to our global community. We are very global. We have 6 regional chapters now, including regional chapters in Latin America, Brazil, Africa, Asia, as well as other regions. So we're really a global organization of volunteers. We do have a small staff members that support our communities, but really it is about the community members like John and Jim and the member companies like Accenture and Kaleido, DTCC, and the others that are here today that are really supporting the ecosystem of what we're doing, of building, open source, enterprise grade blockchain and blockchain related projects. It is really a great community. For those of you who are participating, I see a lot of names that I recognize. Welcome to today's session. For those of you who are new, this is a place for you to be. This is a place for you to not only learn critical skills of technology that is going to help build future infrastructures and future systems, but it also is a great place for you to connect with others and build relationships. Jim and a couple of the speakers already mentioned our recent global forum. Earlier, I posted on the link the sessions, the videos, so you can catch up on all the videos and stuff. But take a look at the pictures of our community together in Dublin. It had been 2.5 years since we got together. You're going to see a lot of common people here on the video, but it's been 2.5 years of this community continually to build, to grow, to really nurture individuals, to nurture technologists and developers around the world who want to use technology to do better, to build better, to do better in the world. And you see many of the faces here, Jim, Nicko, Melanie, Tracy, they were there. It is a great community, and it is a great opportunity for, as I said, to volunteer, to start participating in our open source community. We are open to all are welcome, regardless of what skill sets you have. And it's a great place to meet people. Obviously, when you work for a company like Accenture and Kaleido and DTCC, you also get to go to places like Dublin and meet other people and get work done. I can't tell you how much work was done in Dublin that is done in many of these meetings where people come together around the table. They decide on projects or common projects that they might be working on with their partners or their customers. And we really advance the enterprise blockchain use cases by coming together. So encourage you, I'll post it again in a second. I encourage you to read through and watch a lot of the video, the content, reach out to the speakers, get engaged, and join our community. To answer John's question, and let me just put it up here. Trying to double. All right, so that's where all the video, the second link is all the video and the speaker information and the details. Get a fresh look as to what is happening in the Hyperledger Foundation. For those of you who might know Hyperledger from many years ago, what we've developed and what the community has built out over the last 7 years has really met the pace of the market of where these technologies are being implemented, whether it's in Web3 or Metaverse, whether it's in central bank digital currencies and really lots of payment use cases in healthcare. There's a lot of fantastic work that's happening, and I encourage everybody to take a look, if you haven't taken a look at what Hyperledger Foundation is today, to do and look at it. For us, we are driven by our community and our members and the needs that the companies have. We do also have a job board that we help our companies meet, and I'll put that in there. We have a job board. We have sessions like this that John Carpenter and the rest of the team here is volunteering to do to be connected. There are many ways that you can, get engaged, make a name for yourself. One of the things that, and I'll post some links in a second, is this is an opportunity for you to make a name for yourself, to educate yourself, and to build, to network and build relationships, not just with the hiring managers that might be on the phone here, but with the developers, with, Nicko and his team who are day in, day out at the code level, and it's a great opportunity to do so. We have these meetups globally. John sponsors the Denver one that we federate out to many groups. Find the meetup page, communicate with people that are part of the network, and I think it really helps to do that. So the market for enterprise skill sets, for people who want to build real enterprise grade solutions, people who want to make a difference, is I think very strong. And you'll hear from the hiring teams here. So I'll end there, and happy to take any questions as we go along, John.
Yeah, and that's wonderful, Daniela. I think you gave everyone a great overview of what's going on in the community, and it's really a community. Hyperledger is a community, and there's such a ton of resources available, and people are very friendly and willing to help you. And what I would just recommend is check out the Hyperledger Discord channel. If you're interested in learning about projects and seeing the people who are actually working on those projects, that's a great place to engage. And if you ask a question, you'll get a great response. And to me, I've always seen it's very timely as far as people, engaging with Discord and getting back to you. So that's wonderful. Okay, so let's jump a little bit more here down to defining the blockchain roles. And so I'm going to go back to Melanie. And, I know, Melanie, you've covered a lot of different things from, how blockchain works within Accenture, some of the metaverse, some of the other things that are connected there. So really, from your perspective, how is blockchain roles really defined within Accenture? Maybe you can just hit on that.
Yeah, if I could maybe comment on one thing Daniela said at the end, which inspired me too. The Hyperledger Foundation is the one place where people are talking about projects that are integrating with each other. And it is the place to do blockchain work that is cross, not just I'm putting up my thing, right? But it's actually that community that drives engagement across actual value chains, where you're seeing companies collaborate together, where we're actually having some of those tough discussions around how do these products and services work. So I would encourage all of you, I was having fun flipping through the pictures as I was listening to you, and I was also looking at the pictures. It's a great place to be, and it's a great place where you can lean in right away, right? And I know, Tracy, who's works with us, but also leads a technical steering committee, which I think just got renamed on Hyperledger, right? And so is engaged with the community. There's a ton you can do today to get familiar with Hyperledger projects, to get some content and exposure even before you've applied for a job, right? So that I like the way that Hyperledger tries to make emerging technology accessible, right? Accessible to everybody, and all of the learning boards and things about all the different projects I think are fantastic. So, we simply, we have blockchain tagged in all of our roles and job descriptions at Accenture. And we're actually finding, even though, so our heart of our blockchain team sits in our Metaverse Continuum business group. As a business group, we have blockchain now embedded in roles everywhere, right? So if I search for blockchain roles, you may end up in a supply chain role where they're working on track and trace and value chains, or a healthcare project. And it's a common skill set now that we measure. We have thousands of people who are skilled and specialized in blockchain today. So as I mentioned, right, architects and engineers all day, every day, full stack developers, as well as specialized skill sets. We have tons of training available, and are constantly training our teams, because this is not a place where you could walk in and say, I have 10 years of experience with something that was invented 2 years ago, right? So the talent pools are different in this space. And I think that is something I get a lot of questions of, help me understand, what does it look like? I haven't done this before, but I want to make a leap into this space. I think you have to demonstrate those core foundational skills. You got to show the aptitude to want to learn and get engaged and, kind of learn outside of your core, as you bring relevant skills then to the table, as well as the innovation and the strategist roles that help us to apply it. I like to say there's kind of 3 areas: is industry focus, there's content and domain focus, like money, identity, value chains, and there's tech focus, right? Which actual pieces of the tech stack do you know and understand? Are you broad enterprise architecture, or are you, a specialist in one space in the tech stack? So as you look at industry content or technology, there's a whole, usually you pick one as your major and the others are your minors. And it's okay to have a minor in things as well, and bring that, round experience to the table, because we need to build diverse teams with diverse thinking. And that diversity of thought comes from different areas and brings that in together. And it is super important, right? And I think building that culture of everyone has a voice. And we're contributing to We're contributing to open source projects like Hyperledger Cactus and Bevel and others. So those are things you can even get familiar with and download the GitHub now and get familiar with even before applying to a role if you're looking for a technical specific role.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful overview, Melanie. And really it shows that, blockchain can be across a lot of different verticals within Accenture. And, a role that may be heavily focused on, let's say, supply chain, like you talked about, may actually have a blockchain component as well. So really, people can look at their CV or their resume and say, okay, yeah, I have supply chain experience, really like blockchain. Maybe I can get into a role that kind of leverages both, like you say, your major and minor, that you kind of talked about in Accenture, which is great. One other thing I'm going to just put in here in the chat is just talk about the Learning Materials Working Group right now. And just if you go to that page and take a look at the resources there, there's really a lot of great resources that Hyperledger offers and edX offers to get upskilled if you're interested in that. And I think that kind of highlights what Melanie is talking about, is you might be an expert in a certain thing like, let's say, supply chain, but you want to build that minor and understand blockchain as it ties into supply chain. So definitely look at that as a resource. And there's a lot of great resources that Hyperledger offers at no cost that you can get in there and really upskill. So Nicko, I'm going to jump over to you again. And, talking about roles within your company, I think you did a great job of, highlighting that it's not just developers. But why don't you talk about Kaleido and really kind of the skills you're looking for in related to blockchain?
Sure. Yeah. So, I can speak first and foremost to engineering, because I am an engineer, so I'm a bit more familiar with the specific skills there. But yeah, the question says, how do we distinguish between blockchain roles versus other roles? But referring back to my previous answer, we don't, because they're all blockchain roles.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of, how we, kind of what our specific roles look like, within engineering, we have, full stack engineering, we have back-end engineering, we have site reliability engineering, and we have some folks that have a little bit more of a leaning toward front end as well. But really, we are a startup, so people wear a lot of hats, and the actual title that we have doesn't necessarily there's a lot to do, and people move around pretty easily, which I have really enjoyed the freedom and the flexibility of that, to just be able to work on whatever the company needs. And I like working on new things. I like learning new things. And I always enjoy having a fresh challenge. And so it's a fantastic environment for that. So, leaning into what John asked, what are we looking for? And it's really, I'll just throw it out there. Like when I interviewed at Kaleido, I did not have experience in blockchain before that. So that was new to me. So we are like, having prior blockchain experience is awesome if you have it already. But it, like Melanie just said, you can't have 10 years of experience with a particular technology if the technology has only been around for 2 years. Blockchain's been around a little longer than that, but certain things within the blockchain space are like, it's evolving really quickly. So a lot of learning is done on the job. So ultimately, we're looking for engineers that love to get stuff done, to move really quickly, and to take on big new challenges and learn a lot, because there's a lot of learning to be done.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I think that gives a great perspective to the attendees as well, Nicko, because, we have a great consulting company, international consulting company in Accenture, and now we have kind of more of the startup mentality with Kaleido, which is wonderful. So Daniela, I'm going to come back to you and talk about more from an industry-wide perspective. What are you seeing as far as Hyperledger members, or just the industry in general, as how they're defining blockchain roles, and if you're seeing any specific instances where you want to get across to the members that showed up here, how they would want to, approach those?
Yeah. Well, I think, from a developer talent, to Nicko's point, I think a lot of blockchain use cases, so companies that are either building blockchain networks, for example, or other solutions, or they are participating in blockchain networks, right? As a company comes in and perhaps you're participating in a supply chain network or a trade finance network, the skills from the engineers in-house or the engineers that they are bringing on board might not be, I'm a blockchain engineer, but understanding the basic premises of DLT technologies, understanding the basic premises and of, for example, decentralized identity are important aspects of it. So I agree with Nicko's comments that it's not necessarily a blockchain related job just for people who are experts in blockchain. So we're seeing that quite a bit, where as these networks, as these projects are operationalized, right, they're going into production, they're going into a different phase of the company structure. They need individuals who, for example, can be administrators of these networks, right? They need individuals who can, for example, write good product marketing material or documentation so that the end users of the tools are able to understand how it works. So what we're seeing now, and I think you see this across the job roles that our member companies have open, is that it's no longer, I need a blockchain developer, but I need employees who understand the basics concepts and are able to explain it, for example, or like I said, write documentation or lead the press. For us, because we are a developer community, right? The majority of the job postings, for example, that you might see on our job board, there are some business and marketing ones, and I've seen those expand. Are for developers, right? Are for people who have, or who want to be developers and have the skills. But basic blockchain concepts, understanding the who, the what, and the how of blockchain related technologies is no longer just for developers. I think, up to, in one of our courses that we have, the Linux Foundation Introduction to Blockchain course, we launched in 2017. We have updated that. We update that a yearly basis, and we update the modules in it. Over 300,000 people have taken that course and been educated on that course. And the importance of that is that we're educating the market, right? From business executives to developers to marketers, is how do you talk about the business benefits of blockchain? We just launched a new course on self-sovereign identity. So a very important concept that I think if you fast forward to 5 years, everybody is going to have a fundamental understanding of digital decentralized identity and self-sovereign identity. And I know the rest of the panelists can talk about that quite a bit. So like I said, if you go to the training page, you'll find that as a new course. It's free. It's self-service on edX. But those are the kind of skills that people need. And not just at companies, what we're seeing also, which is very exciting, is government institutions around the world, in the US, in Canada, in Europe, in Asia Pacific, who are now implementing and working with both the private sector and the public sector to implement blockchain and blockchain related projects into their infrastructure. And that, I think, is a very interesting opportunity for people who are looking for jobs, because the federal government is hiring and these skills are in demand. Don't look at the big companies that are here, but also take a look at the public sector. And for those of us who've always wanted to be do-gooders in our life, I get to work for a nonprofit, so I'm living the dream. It's also an opportunity to do so. And I know, certainly a lot of the big companies have, federal teams that support some of these large implementations. So maybe they can answer that as well.
Yeah, I think that's very relevant. And I talk to a lot of people in the public sector, Daniela, and see that, they're looking for blockchain roles. Mm-hmm. Jim, I know you've done a lot in the public sector as well prior to DTCC. So, you can definitely attest to that as well.
Yeah, I was fortunate to work in as the public sector group leader for a couple of years now, get to participate and learn about a lot of the public sector projects and so on. And actually at the Global Forum, I got to share the stage, I'll say, with Liz Tanner, who is the Secretary of Commerce for the state of Rhode Island. And they to Daniela's point, actually, we're one of the first to do a self-sovereign identity project in the US. And the good news, as Daniela suggests, is that's actually a big area. So Rhode Island's planning on moving forward with that, but actually there's a lot of projects around the world in not only public sector groups, but also industry groups saying that they need to have that digital identity based on self-sovereign identity. So I'm actually involved at DTCC in a bunch of those projects actually right now. So there's quite a few of those. And I know in the supply chain space, GS1 and some of the other organizations out there are also doing a lot of the identity work as well. So it is everywhere, as Daniela suggested.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to kind of combine the last couple here, and then I want to make sure we have a little bit of time for Q&A from the audience. So the thing I want to ask Melanie is really looking at how candidates can best build their skills for applying to Accenture. And then what is your best piece of advice to people who want to come to work for Accenture as far as, you know, what they want to skill up on and how they want to apply? So go ahead, Melanie, over to you.
Awesome. And it's such a great question. And you said it earlier on, you know, we're a big consulting company versus Nicko gets to be at a startup, and there's a bit of a different culture. We are a consulting client service business first and foremost, right? And as a consulting client service business, no matter what your role is, we have a new trend of we want to be loved by our clients, right? Like being able to communicate in ways and work through conflict and create these lovable experiences that are really interesting to really bring everything together, right? So it's the whole package in a consulting workforce, whether you're doing, you know, leading the project or you're defining requirements or you're actually building the pieces of requirements in the stack, like all of that has to be done in a client service business mindset. So making sure that you have those soft skills as well as those deep technical skills, because content always wins in your career in a consulting business, right? If you know what you're talking about, you can demonstrate that and you can move from context to context. So the agility and the context switching happen often because you may be on one project in one industry and another project in another industry, even though there's that major, minor, right, piece behind it. So being able to demonstrate agility and just flexibility as requirements change. And in blockchain, things are changing all the time. The rules around us are changing. And often you're writing the rules, right? We're writing standards, we're writing the rules of engagements in much of these products. So I think it's building confidence in your core skills so that you can bring them to different and unique areas in different ways, but kind of in that way of, as a client service business, no matter what your level is, you've probably got a client counterpart that's a peer that's going to be engaging with you and kind of bringing that back to that core value of serving our clients every day, but building teams that we often are on the best place to work. And I think it's because we have the best people, right, that really engage and care for each other in an environment where, you know, building, we may not be the best at, we've seen projects that don't know how to estimate when you're building something from scratch that's never been built before, right? So how do you protect, you know, work-life balance and really care for your teams and such? So all of that culture is important. I think the best piece of advice for me is really, is to learn what you know what you know, and be strong in that, right? And be confident in it, because if you can express that through the short interview process, it's very hard to interview people and really get to it. If you can confidently express what you know well and where you want experience to learn and where you're flexible around it, I think you can really be successful through that process. But it's really about building confidence as you're making the leap into a new space.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect assessment and great advice, Melanie. I think everyone on the call can benefit from that. And it sounds like a perfect way to intersect with Accenture. Nicko, over to you. As far as, you know, candidates building their skill set and then your best piece of advice, why don't you weigh into that for us?
Sure. Yeah. So, you know, obviously getting hands-on experience with stuff in the blockchain world is super useful, super cool. I think beyond that, you know, when I'm talking with people that are interested in working at Kaleido, when I'm interviewing, you know, the things that I look for are a curiosity and a passion about software and about technology, and people who love to learn new things and try new things and take on new challenges. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. Even, there's, you can move around in your current organization, work for different teams, get exposure to different subject matter areas. But there's a lot you can do on your own too. A lot of times I'll have something I'm working on at work, but then when I go home, I'm also, whether I'm learning a new programming language or things like that, it's just like, I love what I do for work. And so that drives what I research and tinker with and experiment with in my free time a lot of times too. Some practical things like just getting involved in open source projects is a really great way to get familiar with, like, how does the open source world work? How does software get from, like, I have this idea of this thing that I want to do to actually merged and shipped in and released in a new version of the software? Every project is a little bit different. Hyperledger tends to be consistent within project to project, but there's a lot of open source projects that are not Hyperledger projects as well. Open source contributions are a great thing to, they're great to put on your resume, but I think more valuable than that is just the experience of working with a community of other developers that may be all around the world. So just, I would encourage people, be curious, be passionate about software and about learning and take on new challenges. And those are all things that I look for when I'm talking with a candidate that is interested in working at Kaleido.
Yeah, no, that's perfect, Nicko. And you actually hit on passionate, which I heard throughout your presentation there. And I said, yeah, if you're passionate about what you're working on, it's really going to be a great outcome. And I think, people pursuing their passion and it dovetails with what they're working on really makes for a great combination. Okay, Daniela, so, from the overall industry and Hyperledger perspective, what is your advice as far as building their skill sets, and what is your personal recommendation to people that are looking to get into the space?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hyperledger Foundation, our community, is a great place to get involved because we are open. Anyone could participate. It's never pay for play. You have so many options to participate in, and we encourage you to do that. And every staff member that is on my team, I'm sure if you run into them, they'll assist you if you need any assistance, or, I only have 1 hour a week that I can invest into the Hyperledger community. What should I do? And we're happy to answer that. So, take a leap of faith. I think blockchain is scary for a lot of people, and even things like decentralized identity and self-sovereignty, these big words, take a leap, don't be afraid. Our community is very welcoming, and you can ask questions that maybe you're a little scared to do so in front of a crowd, but please, join any of our meetups, our community groups, take advantage of the learning courses that I've been posting that are free to access. And, you run these courses on your own schedule, and ask and, say hello to people, join a meetup and, say hello to them on the chat, connect with them on LinkedIn. I'm already getting some connections on LinkedIn. Thank you, Michelle. These are the kind of things when you're in a situation like this, connect with folks. And I think you'll get it from me and everybody here, everybody I know in the Hyperledger community, all our members. If you reach out to them and you ask them for questions, they're most likely all going to be very helpful to you. So don't be shy, and reach out to us, and jump right in.
John, can I make one more point following Danielle on about not just the community, about how you, in a sense, close the gap productively on learning something new, especially in this community. So because I'm the oldest person I've ever met in the world, I've been learning lots of things forever. And so I would say I'm a professional student, having been learning everything all the time. And the thing that struck me, I developed a theory of what I call knowledge holes, that when I was at IBM, they didn't think that way. They thought of like providing what I call universal training. One of the advantages of this great global community and all the, in a sense, the openness and the inclusion that everybody in the community has is I know I can ask anybody. And believe me, I've asked Nicko many times, but I'll ask lots of other people for help on how do I get to learn whatever that concept is, like self-sovereign identity quickly. The tricky thing about this stuff is we all come from a different place. So sometimes I have no knowledge of anything that's even relevant for maybe a specific concept or a technology. And sure, that's a long distance, but more often than not, you have a background that is a partial fit to a lot of things. So in many cases, somebody will say, well, I don't know anything except how to spell blockchain. I know nothing about it. And I'll ask them like, well, okay, have you ever worked with a database? And they'll say, yes. And I say, okay, great. Because all of a sudden I can cut the distance from where they actually are and what they already know to make it a lot shorter to introduce what I call the new stuff. And so really learning is about it's a productivity exercise. And all I'll say is I would encourage you with all of the resources that Linux Foundation and Hyperledger have to reach out to all of these people to help you figure out how to shorten your own roadmap to get into one of these technologies quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just highlight one other thing that Daniela said, which I totally agree with, is the Hyperledger staff is exceptional. And any time that I've ever asked for any help with anything or needed assistance, they're really exceptional about getting back to us and making sure things are going smoothly. So hats off to Daniela and the team over there. Okay, so the next thing is, we're kind of running into a time crunch here. So I guess I'll just ask the three panelists quickly if you have any closing thoughts around the career fair or anything you want to say about recruiting for your company, and then we'll close out and we'll move on to the next stage here. So Melanie, any closing thoughts around Accenture or anything you want to just add to the discussion?
I would just say you guys have made a good choice to come learn about something that is emerging, that is new, that is different, but is also, as Jim said, right, anchored in so much that we know today. So you made a fantastic choice. I'm looking forward to getting to know more of you.
Perfect. Nicko, how about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think I said this in part one, but I'll say it again. Don't sell yourself short. If you have skills, especially engineering skills, you probably are already more equipped to move into a blockchain role than you might think already. And so, be bold, put yourself out there, be upfront about what you know and what you have experience with, but go for it. And don't sell yourself short. Don't think that, blockchain's too complicated, I could never learn that. There's a lot to learn, but it's really cool. And we're all learning together.
Perfect. Okay, and Danielle, I'm going to close with you. Final comments?
Sure. No, once again, thank you for the organizers and the members who are participating. I know that I've seen a couple of times that people have some Q&A. So I think they might have some Q&A for the panelists. And if we can take a couple questions, I think the panelists will be okay before we break out into the room.
That's fine, Danielle. I just want to make sure we're covering everything. We stay on schedule. So let's do as Danielle says. So if someone has a question they want to ask, I guess come off mute and ask your question and then address it to whoever on the panel you'd like it to be answered by. Or Danielle, if you see great questions in the chat, or Melanie or Nicko, feel free to pull them out and address them if it sounds relevant to your company.
Yeah, so
a question for Nicko.
Go ahead.
I'm spending hours and hours in learning a lot of things. But one thing what I found over the period of time is I get lost all the time because there are so much information available and so many chains and so many things. But at this stage, I feel that like every time I start, I'm starting the same thing again and again. Is there a roadmap which is available so that I can follow the concept, not the same thing in every different chain?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, maybe I know there are lots of great free courses out there that maybe can guide you through that journey of learning. And one other thing I'll throw out there too is may not be what you're looking for, but maybe it will be helpful. Is Hyperledger has what we call the greenhouse. I don't know if someone wants to drop the link to that in there while I'm speaking, but basically it's a map of all of the different Hyperledger projects and what they are and the role that they fill, because many Hyperledger projects work together, and it can be a little overwhelming because there are so many of them. And so that could help kind of guide you in terms of getting started in understanding what each of these things are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Arun, there's a question.
Yeah, hi, Arun this side. Thanks for letting me ask this question. This is for Melanie from Accenture. Hello, Melanie. Just to give you a background, I'm a polyglot cloud architect and done some couple of courses with blockchain and want to excel in Hyperledger. So I would want to know that Accenture being the world's biggest consulting organization and and also in the service sector, what are the overlapping skills which would help me take the a big leap towards the blockchain in Accenture or any other big service industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think cloud skills matter, right? Like even if you just look at Hyperledger Bevel, it's a DevOps platform, right? That enables the ability to roll out nodes very quickly and seamlessly across an ecosystem, especially in your distributed system. But I think Daniela posted a number of the links to the learning programs through Hyperledger. It's also about learning we know what things look like in a controlled, centralized environment, like a big cloud environment where you've got a data center and everything is controlled and governed in a certain way. And how do you apply those rules into enterprise solutions so you can stay, safe and secure as the solutions need to meet those requirements as we grow. So I think it's really spending some time going through finding the projects that are interesting to you and kind of doing that curious learning.
So what did you say? Hyperledger, which is the DevOps environment? Hyperledger?
Bevel.
Devil. Can you put it in the chat? Sorry, I'm having a hard time to understand. Bevel. Okay, yes, I got it now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all from my side. We'll see you all in the breakout room.
All right.
Perfect.
Hey, I have a quick question about the roles for blockchain, like you were saying before. I have a lot of technology background, but my background is primarily soft skills, training and development, process mapping, those type of things, Lean Six Sigma. What would a blockchain role be? That's somebody that could speak to the technology, be like a relationship manager, and be able to explain the system. What type of roles would you guys be, or what would there be available, so I can look for keywords or different roles to search for?
Was that to me or Nicko? I feel like Tracy.
That was to anyone. I'm sorry.
Anyone? I feel like Tracy could answer that almost best.
Tracy, you want to come off mute and answer that? That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's an interesting question that I have found that in my career. So I was a Hyperledger community architect. I spent actually quite a bit of time developing some of those training materials that Daniela says being updated yearly, right? I think, being able to develop that is a good sort of skill to have. I also have found that at Accenture, one of the things that I've been involved in is developing a couple of different courses. One, we have a blockchain technology architecture course, which basically looks at all of the different sorts of, private permissioned blockchains and kind of does a compare and contrast of those, works through some of the architectural trade-offs of choosing one platform over the other, putting together kind of the requirements, understanding what the requirements of your project are and picking the technology that best suits that. The other course that I've helped develop at Accenture is focused on decentralized identity and really what does that look like from an architecture perspective. So, it's an interesting question that you asked, because I think there are lots of different sorts of careers that could potentially lead to that, right? In my case, it was an architect career, right? Where I was specifically looking to help educate people on the different sorts of technologies that exist out there. It's something that just, wasn't what I was necessarily signed up for, but it is something that I think it was very useful. And, I do think there's other places, say at Accenture, where we have to, part of what we do is help people understand these new technologies that are coming out and that these technologies are emerging. And so that could be somebody in our go-to-market teams, right, who is working with the different clients that we work with and having those conversations around what this technology is, how it can best be used for determining the different sorts of value pools that this particular client might be looking at. And so, you know, what are the right keywords to look for? I'm not quite sure I have a good answer for that, but I would suggest that because of the space that we're in, there is a lot of education and a lot of, you know, communicating what these things are to others, regardless of, I think, which particular career path you head down.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us and answering that. That was wonderful. Anyone else have any specific questions before we kind of move on to the next segment here? Just take a look here, and if not, then what I'm going to do is just give you a few pointers here before we move on. And, you know, make sure that when you're looking for any type of job, you're mindful of your online presence and personal brand. Tailor your resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn profile to really the roles you want to try and apply for. Be prepared for anything and research the company culture. Those are always good things. Be pleasant to everyone you encounter in your search, whether that's the first person you encounter or anyone along the interview path. And then always apply to multiple jobs where you see a good fit, not just focus on a single job, because you may be a great fit for multiple jobs and the one that pops up may be, you know, of the multitude you apply to. Send your follow-up emails quickly and effectively and really communicate how much you want to get the role. Keep track of which jobs you've applied to so you know when you get responses back from the companies, what you're working with and how you can respond. And then really what we were talking about here is really the networking and learn, you know, job keywords and also network with industry participants. And I think even a session like this is a great networking opportunity where you're talking to the industry leaders and they can give you insights in, you know, how to get into the industry and get a new role. So I think all those are important. The other thing I want to just highlight here is just, if you haven't already, share your LinkedIn profile and email address in the chat, and we're going to capture all those and share those with the recruiting companies. So I think that's a critical component. And then, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to go into breakout rooms. And I see that we've got the DTCC team here as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and just from Melanie and Tracy's perspective, how many breakout rooms would you like this time for Accenture? Do you want 1 or 2 breakout rooms?
Let's just do one.
And Tracy, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah, just one, John.
Okay, great. Let's just go for 1. So I'm going to go ahead and just create 4 rooms here. And I'm going to let the participants choose their own room. And so the first one, I'm just going to rename it here to DTCC. And then all the recruiting professionals who have showed up today, just please go into the room what we've named for you. And then we'll go from there. Okay, so we got Accenture. And then we're going to have Kaleido. And then I'll leave one open in case we want to go ahead and augment it with anybody else who wants to have a room set up. So I'm going to go ahead and create 3 plus a buffer room. So I'm going to go ahead and open all the rooms now. And then just go ahead and join the room. And what I would welcome you to do, and this has worked great for the last time, is join and talk to all 3 of the companies that are here today to get their perspective and find out what roles are available. So definitely go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and broadcast it here. And then feel free to just go ahead and join one, and I'll go ahead and just kind of jump in between rooms and make sure everything's going smooth for everyone. And then Jim and I will kind of also go back up to the top here so that if anyone has any questions while they're going through the process, feel free to jump back up to the top and either Jim or I will answer your questions and go from there. And Daniela, if you'd like, I can go ahead and assign a room for Hyperledger if you'd like to talk to people.
That's all right. I'll stay in the big room. People can come cycle back in.
Okay, no problem, Daniela. You know, I'm here to help and support the team. So if you want a room, I've got one ready to go.
I'll stay in the main one.
Okay, great. Okay,
This is my
like
favorite part when everybody kind of zooms into the verse.
Yeah, and if you want me to assign you to a room, I can do it through my interface too. So, like I see Feliciano, I'm just going to go ahead and put people in there, you know, just because I want everyone to kind of join all the rooms.
And to answer, Arun has a question of how do you do it? So at the bottom of your Zoom, there's where the more, and then you just select breakout rooms, and then you pick this breakout room that you want.
Yep.
Arun, let us know if you still need help.
Yeah, thanks for
Arun,
setting up the rooms, John. I can see, actually, I do see a DTCC room, and I see 3 of my teammates are in the DTCC room as well. So there's
great.
The resource there to answer questions.
And I'm just going to go ahead, since it looks like we've got down to maybe 14 people left that haven't jumped in a room. So I'm just going to assign people to different rooms. I'm just going to go down the list and just pick a room for you and just send you in there to start off with. And that way everybody can go and visit a room. And just going down the list here, trying to stack them up.
And John, just to confirm, do you want the live stream to stop now?
Yeah, we can go ahead and stop the live stream. Thank you very much,
I'll do
Dave. I appreciate your wonderful help. And I'm just trying to make sure everyone gets